Fishing trips anywhere, anytime. FishingBooker.com. Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
Explore historic waterways in 2025 with Scenic on the most inclusive cruise on Europe's rivers. Enjoy up to 5 dining experiences, spacious suites, and butler service. Be immersed in the culture with enriching free choice excursions and exclusive events. Scenic, in a class of its own. Book now and save.
Welcome to DSC's Campfires with Larry Weissoon, a unique blend of hunting, fishing, wildlife conservation, and the outdoor lifestyle. DSC's Campfires is brought to you by DSC, Conservation, Education, and Hunter Advocacy. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Taurus, award-winning revolvers and pistols. Stealth Vision, high-tech, precision-driven equipment for the modern hunter. Mossberg, American-built, American-strong. Vineyard Max, deer attractants created for the aroma of success, game feeders, and other innovative hunting products. Red 55 Winery, signature wines from the Emmy Award-winning country artist Miranda Lambert, owned by Rick and Beverly Lambert. I recently had the opportunity to speak to the Texas Outdoor Writers Outdoor Media Group down along the Texas coast to talk about changes that have occurred in the terms of probably outdoor writing, outdoor communications in the last many years since I started back in about 1970. So what follows is a talk to that particular group, and absolutely great fun with old friends, new friends, and a few guys there that maybe not had any idea what a Big Chief red tablet was when I started talking about it. But hope you'll enjoy the talk, and it kind of gives kind of a rundown as to what happened over the years, particularly from my perspective. Hope you enjoy it. Herman called me just a few days ago, and he said, would you mind being a speaker Saturday afternoon right after lunch? And I'm going, yeah, if I'm awake. A while ago, when Chris was up here talking, did y'all see the screen back behind it? Did. There were actually four words there that really mean a lot to what we do. And I don't know if you saw it, the very top one was disconnect. Then there was one here called the source and the source connection. Where do we fit into that? Are we in the disconnect? In some ways we are. I've been in this business a long time. I'm looking across here, and there may be one or two older guys in the room here that what I am. And I move around a lot, so if I kind of drift off camera here, just too bad, by golly. I saw my first magazine article back in 1969. That's 31 plus 25, what's that, 56 years ago? The first one I wrote on a red Big Chief tablet. Some of y'all know what that is. But there's a bunch of folks out there these days. I did a talk not too long ago to a bunch of young people being those from about 50 on down. Actually, I did a talk to a group of college students, and we were talking about, they wanted me to talk kind of like what we're doing here today about kind of the evolution of some of the writing things that are going on. I mentioned the red Big Chief tablet, and they kind of looked at us, and someone said, they have a tablet back then? I said, yeah, but I said, what was really hard was keeping that lead pencil from breaking. And I said, the good thing was there was an eraser on the back of it. And I said, then when I got ready to submit anything, I had to go find a manual typewriter. and a gallon of whiteout. And again, a lot of folks these days, whiteout, you had the snowstorm, fog. But that's really kind of where it began. I used to spend a lot of time with J. Wayne Fears from Alabama. Some of y'all here know Fears, and I know Miss Karen does. We've had a lot of great times. Some of them we can remember over the years. But I remember when Wayne was really doing a lot of writing, he would do everything in longhand, and then he would type it just like I did, and then you would send it. Of course, when he got to photography, we were shooting 35 millimeter cameras with slide or black and white. And if you didn't have the money to where you could do your own black and whites, you had to send those off. And you certainly had to send the slides off, the film, the little canister. I looked through a bunch of stuff the other day, and I found a whole bunch of those little metal to start with, and they finally went to plastic kind of thing. And you'd take 3 rolls of film with the hope that you would end up with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. You're really lucky out of there that the editors like. But there's one thing I learned very early in life with doing all that. Wearing a red neckerchief. If I wore a red neckerchief, that photo could be so out of focus that you couldn't tell who it was, what it was, but by God, there was red there. And it kind of drew their eyes to them. So, learned a lot of things along the way, but went from there to finally got an electric typewriter. Oh my God, and then you had this one little key that you could hit, and it was like a ribbon with white on top and black on the bottom. Well, you could hit that white one and, it'd take it out. It made life a lot easier. And then it got from there to where, oh my God, modems, or faxes and all those kind of things. And for a long time, the photos didn't change. That didn't change. Then finally, we started the first computer I got. To back up, when I was at Texas A&M University back in 1969, we had a computer science building there. The computer science building at that time was about half as big as what this complex is right here. And it would spit out these little cards. So that's kind of, when you here's a little notch here, you kind of match those up, try to come up with things. And now we've gotten to where it is so much easier to write. Things have changed so much in the last many years, not just in how we write, not just in photography, but I can remember, sending a query, still do that every once in a while, sending a query to an editor and maybe a long list, and they'd pull 4 or 5 and says, this is what we'd like for you to do, kind of thing. But they paid and they bought manuscripts. These days, there's some that still buy manuscripts, they still pay, but I just did one not too very long ago for one of the major magazines, and I got paid the same amount I did in 1974. The price of being paid has not gone up that much. The good thing was during those years when I was doing a tremendous amount of writing is I was on staff with PGS Publications and several others. Back then that was Shooting Times magazine, and then they ended up with Peterson Hunting and all those other kind of things. But I was on staff there, so you were getting a contract to write X number of articles per year, so many columns, do these kind of things, attend these shows, do that, and all that was really great fun. I know Miss Karen had been to so many of the SHOT shows, the NRA shows, we had all these other kind of things. Those were so much fun. I guess they're still that way. I don't really go those places anymore. But I've watched so many things change over the years since I started out writing with a lead pencil, with an eraser, and then try to go from there. I used to try to talk my wife into typing them, but my handwriting was so bad she couldn't read it. So I ended up having to do it anyway, and then I'd have her for a long time before we had all the editing capabilities that we have now with just sitting at like the gentleman back there is doing right now in front of his computer. Are you punching a little key? Okay, we change, we can take this here, we can put it here, and we take this, we can change everything up. Well, I do all these writing things, and first of all, I'd do my wife to try to get her to do some of the editing, and she could look at it, she go, you can't say that. I said, what do you mean I can't say that? She says, the syntax is wrong. I said, there is no sin involved in this, and God hope there ain't no tax involved in this. But still, she was a great help. Nowadays, I do an article and or whatever, or blog, and I write it out very quickly, and I go back about an hour or two later and edit it, and it's ready to punch a button to send it. I don't have to go to FedEx and hope that FedEx gets it there. I don't have to go photos looking at the slides like this, and then taking a little, little loop to make sure that they were reasonably. Yeah, that was pretty close, and then this one here and this one here kind of thing. These days it's so much easier in so many different ways. And I think in the process of that, from the writing perspective, we've lost some things. These days, everybody can be an expert. Oh, God. I went hunting when I was a kid, and I remember this one day I was sitting there and I saw this rabbit. Well, 30 years later, now they're writing about, I saw this rabbit years ago, or just saw this rabbit. Things are changing. We have so many experts these days, very few true authorities when you get right down to it, when we're talking about firearms, when we're talking about optics, when we're talking about even in terms of wildlife management and those kind of things. Back when I was writing a lot, I used to write a minimum of about anywhere from 100 to 200 articles a year. That's a lot of writing. I learned on very early on that I could get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Before we had these blasted things, I'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I could work until about 7 or 8 because nobody else would call it. That time the calls started. I still got into that habit so badly that I still get up every morning about 3 o'clock and go in the office. We've seen changes in so many other ways. We saw years ago where print magazines were king. If you wanted to sell a product, you probably had two sources that which you could go to. One was newspapers, maybe a little bit of radio. There were a lot of newspaper columnists, really good writers. And then we saw TV come on the scene. And guess what? When the TV shows first started, I remember doing those way back. First TV show I did was back in 1970, and then I used to do a little stuff with Larry Godfrey. He used to be a member here. He was the editor of Bryan Daily Eagle, and we had a TAMU TV station that did, of all things, an outdoor show. And I helped Larry with that years ago. But when that kind of thing started, guess what? All of a sudden, these advertising dollars that had been here, that had been going to hardcover publications, started drifting away, shifting away. I grew up out in the country, not very far from where Herman grew up. And one of the things that I learned is that you had to learn to adapt. I mean, it'd be dry like all get out. By golly, you had to get rid of some cows, or you had to find a place to put them. Well, you had to continually adapt. Well, I could see this kind of all of a sudden happening to where I go, okay. So we started doing TV stuff way, way, way back when. And then that was kind of the king for a long time where advertising dollars went. I used to get tickled because we'd do something on TNN back when they were still around with an outfitter. And about that time that show would air, that outfitter would call and he said, "You sorry, no count, I can't, all kinds of cuss words, and go, "What's the matter? Hadn't you gotten a call?" I said, "No, good God Almighty, I hadn't gotten any sleep. Those blankety, and it's calling me all day, all night long." And you do this show and they get like 4,000 or 5,000 calls. And then we saw that change to where all of a sudden that kind of went away a little bit to where these days there is still traditional TV. But now you can look on the phone. I've got 3 or 4 different little apps over here that I can look at shows that I want to, when I want to, right here. During the years when I was doing all the TV stuff, and we did a lot. At one time, way back when, I had a TV show on about 3 different networks. I watched TV every day. A lot of work, a lot of hard work, a lot of time spent gone from home, and my photography suffered, my writing suffered because I got so tied up in that because I didn't have time to do it. But these days, it's gone from where there's still some of these traditional type TV shows to where now we've got YouTube. I mean, God, we've got all kinds of different media type of or internet type programs that we can go to and watch, and it's great in a lot of ways. It's good in a lot of ways because we have really kind of introduced a lot of people maybe that might not have really gotten into hunting or the outdoors or fishing or those kind of things, or have a better understanding of wildlife management when you get right down to it. So all those things have been good over the period of time, but for somebody that's my age, that I love this saying here. If I can read this, it says, "Riding the wave of technology." Riding the way of technology. And that's what you have to do these days. You have to not only ride that wave, you have to write that wave and do that wave. These days, to me, if you're going to be, and years ago, I made a decent living as a writer and as a wildlife biologist. That's my background, and a few of the other things I did. But I made a decent living off of writing. It's be a tough chore right now to be on staff, even with 1 or 2 publications, and then try to freelance articles like we used to. If you're a male, you better have a wife that's got a really good job, or you had a great inheritance, because you ain't going to survive, and vice versa. You know, it's just the simple way. It's a lot of the companies that figured out that I don't need to pay Larry to push this thing. I can give away 3 scopes, and I can get all this following from everybody. So it's totally changing. But you know what? Over the years that I've seen, there's popularity. You know, you'll see an outdoor personality rise to the very, very, very popular. Out of those very popular TV people that are out there, or those kind of media people, how many of them actually sell product? Very few. Very few. And that's something that a lot of the companies, I think, are starting to look at again a little bit. I've talked to 2 or 3 of them that says, we've had all these influencers and all, but they're influencing what? You know? They're influencing, buy my T-shirt. Look at me. I got a brand new hat. I got this over here. You know, we've lost the loyalty, as far as I'm concerned, in that outdoor writer side, the real outdoor writers. And I include TV and all the other thing in there as well, too. But we've lost that loyalty in a lot of different ways. From the companies, to some extent, we've gone to a lot of the different companies now have bean counters as their leaders. They don't understand relationships. The relationships so very often sell more products than you ever could by throwing out everything against the wall and hoping something sticks. Thankfully, some of the people are starting to see that kind of thing again. So there's a little bit of change, I think, kind of going back in that way, the other way now, too. You know, these days, I still write. I write probably 50 or so feature articles a year. Thanks to that guy back there in the black with that funny bandana on his head. I've got a column in Texas Fish and Game. I do columns in several other places, but I also do a tremendous amount of blogs. And I do blogs for different companies and different websites. And the beauty of it is there, you can reach a lot of people that way. But the stuff that I write, to me, you can look at writing, and there's some people who have a very great knack for writing when you get right down to it. They can convey a story, they can tell a story, and they can sell product without saying, look at what I'm using right here. I've got this Kajonka-check gun right here, by golly, that shoots 10,000 times per second. And, you know, and thank God this ammo company over here provides me with, because I could never afford to pay for it any other way, kind of thing. So, you know, there's some of that goes on, but then there's some that are what I call real people who are genuine, and you can tell those pretty darn quick a lot of times. And I think that's what we're lacking as a whole of outdoor communicators, is that real person that can tell a story. To me, one of the best ways to write, if you ever read the Bible, it's a series of stories. It's parables. And it teaches you without you even realize it happening. To me, the sign of a good writer or a good somebody that's up here talking, or out there in the TV world or a podcast world, and you hear something, and 5 years later, you're in a situation where something that he or she said becomes relevant. And you do it, and you go, that was a great, I think I read that somewhere about 10 years ago. That's my goal. I care less whether they remember my name. I want them to try to learn something when I do the writing, when I do the podcast. And we do a weekly podcast called DSC's Campfires with Larry Weissoon. I do a weekly radio show with Luke Clayton that's turned into a podcast. It's called Catfish Radio with Luke Clayton and Friends. Been doing that for almost 19 years now. And it's just Luke and I get tickled because we'll sit there on the phone and go, what are we going to talk about today? So, okay, well, that's a good subject. We'll start talking. We don't even get close to that subject. you know. But in the process of doing so, we try to entertain while at the same time producing some kind of information that's really worthwhile out there that somebody may remember. Same thing, we do a weekly TV show, which I really appreciate these days. And this is how things have progressed over the years as far as I'm concerned. We do a weekly TV show called A Sportsman's Life that's on Carbon TV. Jeff Rice, who just retired recently, Jeff does the editing, does a lot of the filming, and then, of course, Luke and I contribute to it as well, too. The beauty of it is we're going to be turkey hunting. I'll be turkey hunting on the Choctaw, taking guys from that bought hunts at DSC there next week. The following week, that'll air. And to me, that's so much better than the stuff I used to have to do where we're going to hunt this fall, but guess what? You're not going to be able to see it until July or August. By the time that thing airs, there's so many changes. The outfitter may have gone out of business. There may have been a major die-off in the area, and so he books the hunts and get there, and well, there's nothing there, and they go, well, that's sorry, no count white soon. All he did, he bragged on that. It wasn't anything like that, I can't. So to me, I love that. Go fishing this week, show it next week. The hunting, we try to include some cooking into it as well too, and I try to throw in different bits and pieces of wildlife management. Those are the kind of things I think we need to kind of push ourselves to all the way as we can. You got to be involved in so many different things. With the blogs that I do, I will rewrite or retitle and rephotograph the same blog and send it to 10 different people. And it's because I'll change the lead and don't change the real gist of the deal, but I'll change just enough so that if it pops up somewhere on a computer screen, and then another website, if you have 3 or 4 of those that all look the same, all same title, same photographs, you're not going to get the coverage that you do if you have a different photograph, if you have a different title, you have a different lead kind of thing. So those are the kind of things that I've learned over the years. It's part of that adapting. We need to become chameleons in a lot of different ways, but not a chameleon that's brown and gray in one spot and green in the other. I hate to say rainbow colors, but when you get right down to it, you better have a bunch of colors if you're going to be a chameleon these days. There's so many, it's been such a great life when you get right down to it in what I've been able to do over the years. My background, as I said, started out as a wildlife biologist. How I really got started is that I was very fortunate that I didn't mind getting in front of people. And so very often I'd be somewhere and somebody'd say something, well, we need somebody to talk about this particular phase of wildlife management or this particular species, or back then we were doing a lot of disease work. And I didn't mind getting up in front of the group and talking. And that helped a whole lot. Had some absolutely fantastic mentors, as I mentioned, J. Wayne Fears, John Wooders, my dad, Jim Zumbo. Jim, I hope you're listening to that, because remember, you are my father. You're only about 80 years older than I am. So, but that gets back to where I started off a while ago. There were heroes. There were real people. There's still a few of those around, but they're not as many as what they were in the past. Source, connect, disconnect. It's up to us to keep that disconnect from happening. That's what we as outdoor communicators need to be doing more and more of. I get tickled a lot of times. People say, well, we need to take more kids hunting. Yeah, we do. We, through the Texas Wildlife Association that I was the primary founder of 40 years ago this year, we're celebrating our 40th anniversary here in July. We've taken almost 40,000 kids hunting. And everyone of them had to have an adult with them, either their parent or mentor or a brother or sister. And a lot of those kids that we've taken hunting, they've never hunted before. So when you get right down to it, we introduced probably in that unit in itself, probably close to 80,000 or more people, because those people go back and they start talking about it. Well, all those people hunt? No. But now they know. It's not like somebody coming and saying, hunting is bad. And they go, I beg to differ with you. Let me tell you what really happens when hunting happens. So to me, that's part of what we have to do as well too, is tell stories. And I'm kind of shotgunning around here. I did 3 different pieces very recently for DSC Foundation that's been going around. One of them was lessons. One of them was called Butterflies. And the other one's called Making a Difference. They weren't hunting stories. They were talking about butterflies or songbirds.
because it's a backdoor approach to some of these places. You know, if I can get them to look at a butterfly that's really pretty and catch their attention long enough, and most people these days have about a 3-second attention span as opposed to the 7 or 9 that we used to have. But if you can grab them just very quickly, it's like, and then they'll look at it. They're going to be interested because it talks about butterflies, it talks about songbirds, you know, but it also talks about why there is habitat and what's happened when we've done this or that kind of thing. Because it all comes back down the soil to the habitat kind of thing. Those are the kind of things that we need to do more of as we're talking into the future kind of thing. I talk a lot about butterflies because it's like it's a good grab, like it's a good opening line on an article, if you will, kind of thing. And if I can get them just to even pay a little bit of attention to me, I think I can convince them. I've done so in person, and I feel like we can do some of that. Not just me, a lot of other people can as well too. But that's somewhere where we need to head to make people have a little bit better understanding. More hunters, absolutely we need them. But we need them my age. We need a lot of them that are in their 30s and 40s because those are the ones who are having the kids right now. And if mom and dad go, they're going to go. But if you can get that kid to go, chances are pretty good mom and dad will follow as well too. But all those kind of things are things that we need to be involved in and to where we can to, as communicators, promote those kind of things. Make it fun. Make it fun. I was thinking about opening line to an article that I'm doing right now or getting ready to do. And the opening line is going to be, Charlie, get your butt over here. How many people are going to pay attention to that? You know, as opposed to, there I was, the sky was azure, you know, the grass was unbelievably verdant, you know. There was a scent of jasmine wafting through the breeze.
Hey, what's up, happy people? This is Robert Arrington from Deer Meat for Dinner. If you're into bow fishing like I am, you need to check out Cajun Bow Fishing. I've been using their gear for years, from the Sucker Punch Pro to the Winch Pro Reel. It's tough, it's reliable, and it works. Whether you're just getting started or you're ready to take the step to the next level, head over to CajunBowfishing.com and check out everything Cajun Bow Fishing has to offer. I trust their gear because it works. So if you're hitting the water soon, make sure you're rigged up with Cajun Bow Fishing. You will not regret it.
Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
Coming my way, you know. There was a time when that was really good, but these days that doesn't work, you know. It doesn't work like it used to. I love to read. I love to write too. But to me, we need to continually keep moving forward. Need to continually adapt. Ride the wave of technology. Technology is there. We can take advantage of it, and we need to.
DSC's Campfires has also been brought to you by the Crown Bar in LaGrange, Texas, Texas Wildlife Association, Habit, Our Gear, Your Adventure, Double Nickel Taxidermy, and Burnham Brothers Game Calls.